Ladies and gentlemen, I got an awesome guest for you today. He's got a little bit different approach to YouTube, really cool tactics and strategies. I think there's a lot of similarities that we can pull from. Ian Garlic, how you doing, Ian?
I'm doing awesome, Jesse. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to talk to you.
Tell us a little bit about what you do, your company, and from there we can kind of dig into the things that people can take from it.
Sure. So I've been doing YouTube marketing, video marketing for professionals with our agency, Authentic Web, for over 10 years now. Prior to that, I was doing it. So, 13, 14 years, really got started. I was in SEO, and when Google bought YouTube, I was like, man, this is it. Because it's going to be a game changer. Videos can be more accessible, and people are going to be able to get their stories out there. Over 10 years, we've helped grow a lot of businesses using video, and traditional businesses, and using video in traditional and untraditional ways. And since then, Authentic Web was our agency, or is our agency, and we've also founded storycruise.com, which is a resource for service professionals, lawyers, doctors, dentists, even complex services. I've got logistics companies that we teach how to use video, how to capture it, and also how to find trained videographers, editors in their areas or wherever you need it. So that's all I've been doing.
Sounds like you've been doing a lot. And I remember we met up in person, and you told me a little bit too about how you do some traveling and production work and stuff like that, which I want to get into a little bit later. Big takeaways that you have from those elements of making a video that people can do with organic or paid video for that matter.
Yeah. So I've been doing production for a long time and systematized it. The key to great production is planning. And planning out what you're going to do and having a goal in mind, and understanding where, this is the big I literally just had a meeting with our team about it, is understanding where these videos are going to go, like literally where they're going to go, not only channel wise, but in that customer's journey. Who you're talking to and where in the journey are they going to be watching this? Are they going to know who Jesse is? And if they do, are we looking to get them to convert to buying a course? Well, that customer story is going to be different than something I use in quote unquote cold traffic to people that who don't know who Jesse is. It can be the same person, but I'm going to format that video differently. I'm going to ask different questions. So that planning is crucial to production. And I think, the feedback I've always gotten back from clients is that it's so much more beyond just setting up a video camera. While we make pretty videos, I am not a world-class cinematographer, but I understand the formats, and I understand the client's business, and I understand their customer most importantly. And then the questions, I get in the mind of the customer as much as possible. And then we do a documentary style process, because a lot of people aren't necessarily comfortable right away on video. So having a Q&A and someone to speak to makes it a lot easier than them looking into the camera. So we do a documentary style process and edit it down to multiple videos, but we have a lot of planning that goes in place and allows that to happen seamlessly and cost effectively.
Well, I'm really excited to dive into that for myself to learn from and for everyone watching this video. But I wanted to go and hit on that. One of the things you mentioned there was stories. And I know that's a big thing for what everything that you do. Can you kind of take us into what that's about with you and how you use stories?
Sure. So, in the end, one of my favorite quotes, and it's kind of paraphrased from Roy Disney Jr. That Disney is, he was at a shareholders meeting, and it's like, branding is for cattle, people buy stories. And that's the truth. People spend all this time on logos, and they spend all this time on colors and all this time. And while that stuff's important, and like to your point, the thumbnails, having that consistency in thumbnails for click-through rate. But quote unquote branding, most people forget your branding. We have so much information coming out. So I've got like 20 windows open right now. But the stories, our brains are hardwired for stories, and there's a specific format. And when we tell stories in the right way at the right time, people will remember it. And the key to a great story is that it's not just and it doesn't have to be just about your business. It can be ancillary to your business or what you're trying to teach, but people feel it. And that's the key. And, the key to great storytelling is a few things. First of all, you got to practice telling stories. Second of all, you have to realize that you have to have an arsenal of stories. You know, if you're at a party and this guy, you're like, oh my God, here comes that story again, right? It's like, no, everyone thinks that they have to have this. They're like, they call me up and they're like, I need to get my story out. I'm like, which story? Because we don't always care about that one story. We're a conglomeration of stories. And finally, you know, you always have to be collecting them and asking for them and being ready to use them and thinking in stories too. So that's the key. That's my key anyways to a storytelling that works.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. And I think you hit on a really important point with like the emotion side of it. Like they always say people buy for emotion and then they justify it later with their logic. And I think that's true even with like YouTube. Like you're buying the click, you're buying people's time to continue to watch. And if you can tap into emotions, they're more willing to invest that.
Yeah.
One thing that we were talking about before we hopped on that you said was a big part, and I'm interested to see where you're going to go with this, is the bio or the About Us video. Can you tell us about what that's about?
So, you know, a few years ago, a couple of our clients were like, well, I'm getting people calling, but they can't quote unquote afford me. And we were in businesses, you know, we work with a lot of attorneys, and they're in businesses where if they, you know, they lose everything if they don't get the right judgment. So I'm like, it's not that someone can't afford you, they don't see your value. So we started looking at websites, and the second most used page on your website is your About Us page.
Wow.
Second most used. I mean, it fluctuates for some people. Like you might have something that's 2 or 3. It's always in the top 4. But if you look at the path of it too, if you look in Google Analytics and look at the path, you'll see that people go to your homepage. They understand that you understand their problem. And then they go maybe to an interior service page and are like, oh, okay, this is a little more deeper in the problem. I think I want to talk to this person, but let me learn more about this person. They click on the About Us. And so often people just throw up a CV or like long text, a paragraph, and, you know, and like, you might as well just put pictures, you know, from your last vacation up there. And that actually might be more entertaining. So, you know, people want to know, like, and trust you. And this is the point where they want to like and trust you. But the key to a great About Us video is that it's still about them. Because, you know, if I go to, coming back to that party analogy, if we're at a party and you're talking to someone and, you know, and they're telling their story and it's just so boring, you know, you're like, because they haven't related to anything with your life, right? Or, but if you say, you know what, you have kids, I have kids too. How funny is that? And, you know, you're from Wisconsin, I'm from Wisconsin, you know, and we're the only people that know what bubbler means.
Anytime I have a camp and there's someone from out of state, I have to tell them that. Okay, I'm sorry, I had to get that in
there. You know, and that's a very Milwaukee thing, but that's how we connect, right? But if I'm just here droning on like blah, 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 I went to school here, went to school there. Oh my God, how boring is that? But so this is your opportunity to connect with people, but you still have to tell it in the context of them. So, you know, when we've done that, we've seen increasing conversion rates. And what's funny is like people will pay attention to those small details and be like, oh, like I just said, oh, you're from Wisconsin, I'm from Wisconsin too, because you've spoon fed it to them. The other part of that I always tell people is if you don't know who that person that tells stories like that at a party is, it's most likely you. So you're the person that's the bad storyteller. But it's your opportunity for people to like and trust you. This is the place where, you know, you should be really talking about yourself in some way, but in the context of them. So, you know, you still understand their journey and still understand what they want and need, and how can you inspire them? And it's a really important point to get across, because it's where someone's going to remember you. Like all this stuff up until then is, you know, it's educating, how-to videos, all that stuff. And then at this point, when they look at your story, they're like, I really want to work with this person. Do I like them and trust them? And that's the opportunity there.
Okay. I was going to ask you, like, what's the big thing? But it seems like the big thing for that is to make it work is making sure it connects to the person.
Yeah. Make sure it connects to the person. Know who you're speaking to. I'd like to, I start off with like a strong quote, and tell your story of how you got to do this in the context of how you would tell a person sitting across the table from you. And don't just be like, I went to school, learned how to play basketball and did this and did this and this. You're like, no, I was trying to figure out a business. Because if you're trying to sell to other businesses or people that want to have their own business, I was trying to figure out a business, and then I found this YouTube thing, and start doing this and this, and got my first piece of business. So you're still putting it in their context. Another thing I like to bring across there is points in your life where there was a conflict. Where was that turning point? And excite people with that. But when push comes to shove, it's storytelling. You still need to tell a story. And if you can tell a story in the right way, you drive that emotion. So, and to that point, it was a super interesting side fact. I'm going to go off on a tangent, but I love this. I once had Dr. Paul Zak, and he on the show and on my podcast, and the guy's a genius because he's done all of these studies around empathy and actually the chemistry of empathy, which is that emotion. And when you have someone that's empathetic, they purchase more. They like you, they trust you, they buy more. Well, he did a study where he showed people a video, and when the story was told properly, it had the right dramatic arc. It increased both oxytocin and cortisol in there. And I'm a science nerd, so cortisol is the stress drug. Oxytocin is the happiness drug. Well, when those two are elevated together, you get empathy, because you feel stress for the person, but you feel kind for the person. And when a story is told well, he found that it raised the amount of both those bloods. He's actually taking blood samples while these people are watching videos. Wow. So, and doing all this monitoring. And so the empathetic responses increase when the story is told well. But the even more interesting part is, no matter what is sold on the back end, what is asked for on the back end, if you increase someone's empathy, they will buy more of whatever, even if it's completely unrelated. They will donate more, they will buy more on the back end of that. So that's the importance of storytelling and telling you about us and having a great story in there. And the key to that is also just practicing your story and telling it. But I think about this stuff once in a while.
That's awesome. I love it. I could tell you go deep, and that's cool because, like, for me, I get to interview and get all this information that's really interesting to me and helpful. So hopefully, I should say hopefully, I know the audience will love it as well. So we're hitting on there a little bit with what people will do on the back end and buying and things like that. Now, a lot of the people that come to my channel, they are YouTubers, and I'm trying to show them like the importance of getting a business going. So I think what you have going is really interesting because it seems like you mainly work with businesses and get them on YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah. I work with existing businesses and help them use YouTube to grow their business. I think it's a much faster way to monetize than build an audience and then try and figure out how you're going to make money with that.
Okay, so with that being said, can you go off on a tangent for a second on that a little bit more? Because I've been trying to really hit that home to my audience. And I've had videos saying like, look, you can make 10 times more than you are with AdSense. And people, I think, maybe think I'm clickbaiting or being untrustworthy. Just can you share a little bit of your experience with that?
Sure. I mean, on a small, we talk about searches, right? I've helped clients find searches that, because one was a personal injury attorney and found a search that was interesting. It was a very low volume search, but where the search was in the customer journey, and I'm not going to give it away because I don't want anyone to go get it. But where the search was in the customer journey was near the buying point, or even after, where someone might switch attorneys. And it was a very specific question that we quickly got them ranking for. And boom, calls. Because it's like when people have this question, it's a buying question. So, it's personal injury attorney. But if you need to have an almost everyone I know struggles to go the other way. They struggle to monetize their audience. I know a lot of influencers, whatever. It's just so much easier to have your own business, control your own content, and make money on the back end through services, and decide how you want to make money. Let me tell you this. This idea that, you're going to be, the 4-hour work week and you're going to make a ton of money on back end and it's just going to be automatic cash flow. Get away from that idea. If you just decide what kind of work you want to do. I had this awesome CEO coach, David Henderson on, and he was talking about people buying businesses. And so if you step back and think about, you're buying a business with your time. When you go to make a YouTube, if you're going to make a YouTube channel to make money, you're buying a business with your time. So what do you want to do? Do you want to sell products? Do you like selling products? Do you like because selling products isn't just selling products. There's logistics, there's supply chain. If you're selling a physical product, you have to get it there. You have to do design. If you like that, that's awesome. If you want to sell an information product, well, you have to have a super high quality information product, but know that almost all the people that sell information products are selling something on the back end, some unscalable coaching. And people always want to scale, but it's always, you're going to sell some coaching, some consulting, something along that way, and you better deliver great results. But that's the fastest way to actually make money on YouTube. I never once thought about monetization, and it's because monetization from an advertising standpoint, it's so minimal, and you have to strike it out of the park, and to really make tons of videos where you can sell a product and make a 100th of the volume of video views, you can make money. And if you get something that's really niche that you can help someone with a service, and a high level service, if you're solving $100,000 problem for me, I'll pay you $10,000 for that. Right. And if you can figure out what that $100,000 or $1 million problem is, and you answer all the questions around it, you're going to get people contacting you. And then you do all the other funnel stuff and everything, and you can get people contacting you. And I always think my favorite story about this, and you asked me to go on a tangent, so I am.
I love it.
Is the story of the giant factory that's broken down, and this machine that is crucial to this factory is broken, and the foreman is freaking out because every minute the factory's down, they're losing $100,000. So they call out the best repairman. He comes out, walks around, takes his hammer out, taps the machine comes back to life. And, then the guy leaves, sends his bill, and the foreman gets it. And the bill is for $20,000. And the foreman's like, what the F? You just tapped the machine with your hammer. And he goes, okay, I'm sorry. I'll send you an itemized bill. And he sends him a bill. He goes, tapping with hammer, $1. Knowing where to tap the hammer, $19,999. And that's it. If you know where to tap the hammer for one problem, you can make a ton of money helping people, genuinely helping people. So you have to shift your mindset to that. And that's where the opportunity is. And services are the best. People need all sorts of services. We were talking before about, the shoelace thing, or how to make, I know one of the biggest things is, from a friend, I don't know this personally, but how to make slime, and then selling slime kits on the back end of it. That's where the money is going to be made, and how can you service these people? So that's absolutely, I've helped grow $1 million businesses that are service-based businesses through videos, and that's where you're going to grow.
Thank you for that. Okay. So, with that being said, a couple things. I'm going to throw two questions at you at once here, and I guess you can attack them however you see fit. Number one, I know you had mentioned when we were talking that you run YouTube ads, and with that, some of it, the goal was to drive subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting because I typically tell people, and granted, I have a different audience, but I tell them you typically don't want to run ads to try to grow a YouTube channel. But I think in your instance, it's a different story because there's the business back end. But I'd like for you to cover some of that and some advice, and just any overall advice you have for growing a channel.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll be honest, I haven't grown massive channels like you. I've never looked for video views. I look for getting searches, you know, getting to me, the ultimate goal, the best goal would be a highly competitive search term in Google to get a YouTube video showing up in the organic Google search results. Because when you're talking of something like federal criminal defense attorney, that's $100, $150, $200 a click.
Wow.
Not even a call, not even a view, a click. Well, now to get that in there is important. So for me, getting people to watch that, because then I know if they watch that, I can retarget a lot of these. Now, if it's a healthcare, you can't retarget it because of the Google rules. So that's one thing. I'm looking more to get people into the funnel, get them to watch the views. That said, you know, we've gotten views, you know, 400, 500, 600 views on some videos, thousands on some of them, but they're highly specialized, you know, and that's what I look for is like highly specialized problems. We do stuff in accounting, very specialized, you know, business problems that the only people that are going to subscribe to it are going to be wanting to solve those specialized business problems. And it comes back to the idea of, you know, I forget who the guy's name, the 1,000 True Fans.
Yeah.
You know, I had Tucker Max on the show. You know, I think he summarized it best because one of his clients for their book service talked about, you know, well, she only had 1,000 people buy her book, which seems like a failure, but there's only 3,000 of her potential audience and every person is worth $200,000.
There you go.
Right. So it's like, boom, because you get highly specialized and that's where I want to grow the subscription. And if I can grow the subscription there, you know, and we're doing it also, we're growing the subscription in some controversial areas. I can't talk about them because of clients. And I think probably one of my clients is actually listening right now. But, you know, in areas that you can't advertise, I'll grow secondary subscriptions and then move into the primary content. So I get people on the subscription. And one thing, coolest thing I think about YouTube is how it pushes the videos when you upload a video and you get the alerts. Boom, boom, boom. Facebook, you really don't get that unless you go live. Yeah. But YouTube, if you can get subscribers, you can, you know, if they're the right subscribers and you're sending them valuable content, even if it's 100, you know, if you're selling to CEOs of Fortune 100 companies and you get 30 Fortune 100 CEOs to watch your videos and figure out what they want to watch and you get them subscribed, having 30 subscribers is awesome all day long. Right. So, you know, that said, understanding the way we do it, the way we figure out what to put in front of people is understanding their journey. Understanding their journey, not what your journey is, but what are their problems and what are the problems that you can solve for them? Because that's what people go to. They go to YouTube to be entertained and to figure out, solve problems. So if you can constantly be putting out that content that solves their problems, you're going to win because you'll get both that YouTube trigger and also you'll start to hit search results. You can start to hit long tail search results too.
That's awesome. It's cool to hear like about a different YouTube strategy. You know, it's like almost everything you hear about on YouTube is like grow your channel, grow your channel, grow your channel, and then maybe think about some products. Whereas you've kind of flipped that all upside down. So it's really cool to hear, for me to learn about it and the tactics and the thought process behind it, and thinking more about it as almost like YouTube being part of the sales process. But I think the one thing that's in common is I would say the same thing. Like when you're trying to like run these YouTube ads, it's with the intent of someone buying. And I always tell people, look, don't try to build a channel to become an influencer by paying for ads. Unless you've got some sort of a back end business figured out, you're going to be wasting a lot of money.
Yeah. Don't build a YouTube channel. I'll be honest. I've done it. I've done it on Facebook, and I've done it Facebook several times, and YouTube and Instagram, because I'm a marketing dork and I didn't mind throwing. I still haven't monetized these channels, and I'm like, and my wife and I are like, we got to do something. We got, this one, we got 20,000 viewers on this one and 20,000 viewers on this one, and like, what should we do with it? And and then when you go to sell to these people, there's going to be this incongruence, right? But if from the get-go you're like, hey, this is my service, this is how I'm going to help you, watch my channel, let me help you, let me help you, let me help you, you're going to have people just lining up to work with you. And that's the one time I would say, yes, now let's pay for subscriptions.
Right. I'm with you on that 100%, because there's a business intent to the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So the thing that I was mentioning earlier, hinting at, what's some tips? I want to go through some tips. What's your number one tip for when you're going to come up with a video for a client? What's like the number one tip you have for as far as coming up with a good idea for the video?
I mean, so it's more of a process. So find out where your opportunity lies and start with the conversion. Meaning, start with where are you converting, and then move out in their journey. So, if you're looking to get more phone calls, well, let's look at that. If you have a local business, look at your review. What comes up with for your name? What comes up for your reviews? What comes up for people looking for reviews about your generalized service? That is the number one thing you can do, is understand their journey from that and then move out. People all want to get the cold traffic and the big views, but find that high converting point, your customer stories, your about us, and your process video. One thing people don't realize is, because we are experts, people don't know our process, and people sometimes don't understand what's going to happen next. And we can explain to them what's going to happen next. They're going to understand, they're going to take action faster. So when I'm thinking about that, I start there. If you're help someone, your customer story videos are critical. And then I move out. Then number two, anytime you're making a video, I answer 4 questions: who, where, why, and what. And they're not your usual journalism answers to it, but who are we talking to? Very specifically. I don't want to hear it's a demographic of, and actually someone told me this, oh, it's women 25 to 55. I'm like, that's not even a demographic. That's just women. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, they're so different. But, it's like, I want to talk to the 34-year-old guy who, loves basketball, and just moved to Florida. Does it sound like someone familiar?
No.
But and know and name that person. So always know who, where are they in their journey? Here's the thing to remember, is only 4% of people are ever ready to buy right now. So knowing where they are in their journey and where you're talking to them. If it's on your sales page, well, that you need to know that you're selling to them. But if you're not going to put the same video on your sales page that you put into someone who doesn't know, like, or trust you yet. So where are they on their journey? Why should this matter to them? Why should they get excited about it? Why? Why? And really, you have to explain that to them. You might tell them what they need, but what do they want? So understanding that, and then what do I want them to do next? Because so many times people are like, oh, make a video, boom. But, should they be calling me from this? Should they sign up? Should I just tell them to watch another video? YouTube end cards are super valuable, and I see them on so few places. Just drive people to your other videos. Drive them to other pieces of content. But that's, those answering those 4 questions and starting from your PowerPoints, the points of conversion out are the things I would start with making a video. And then just listen to your audience. That's a great one too. Okay.
So I've got a feeling this is probably a big one for you with covering into stories, scripting. Mm-hmm. Can you take us through some, a tip for that, or maybe the process, or anything you could share with us that you think people would find valuable?
Sure. So once we understand where they are in their journey, I don't like scripts. I like a documentary style process or outlines, because most of us aren't actors and people can read your face. So if you're reading a script, you're reading a teleprompter, people can see your eyes move. Your face doesn't match what you're saying because you're feeling nervous or something. So if I'm telling you like, oh, I'm so excited about it, I'm like, I'm so excited. You automatically, your brain says this guy's a liar. Your brain says the face and what he's saying don't match, so he's lying, even if I'm not lying. So that's why I like to have a certain rhythm. So this is how the rhythm generally works out. So in a story, I tell the 3 C's of storytelling. You have connection, conflict, and conclusion. Most people, when they say a testimonial video, they just go straight to conclusion. But we want to connect. Why should I care about this person? What was their problem? And then how was it solved? It's a simple formula. There's more advanced ways to do it. But then from a scripting standpoint and like how-to videos or, we talk about the 8 types of videos, but how-to videos or FAQs or your process, I always talk about wants, needs, and alibis. So what does someone want to get away from? What's their big problem? Are you sick of not getting any views on your YouTube channel, spending all this time on videos and not getting anyone to pay attention to it? Do you want to get videos that people not only watch, but talk about, comment on, and really remember? Well, then you need to go to Jesse and you need to learn, how to optimize your YouTube channel, a system for creating videos and for listening to it. And I know you've listened, and then I talk about their alibis. What are their excuses for not coming forward? What are their biggest misconceptions? And because now they're engaged. I've emotionally engaged them, told them what to do, and I overcome objections. That is generally how we make videos. Because so often we'll say, hey, this is what you need to do. But you haven't engaged me emotionally, like we've talked about. So that's generally my script for videos.
Okay, awesome. The filming side of things, any tips for that?
Do it. Obviously a tripod, decent lighting. If you can do outdoors, and a microphone, and the phones are ridiculous now.
Yes.
Right? It's ridiculous what you can make with it. There's so much time. But I worked with great filmmakers, and so much time is spent into equipment and gear, and that's always the first thing people ask me is what gear to use. I'm like, the Ansel Adams answer is whatever you have with you. Get it done, get it going. Obviously, if you're selling film production, you want to have a better film quality. But besides that, I think that's not as important as one of the big things that you can get better at is B-roll, getting more cutaway shots, getting good B-roll. I think that is crucial. But those are the big things. Don't get backlit. Some of the techniques. I'd like to shoot, if you can shoot in 4K. One of the good things about shooting in 4K is not so much the image quality, but it allows you to do stuff in post with emotion and those types of things. And after you get that stuff done, I do think having a gimbal can add a ton to your film because you have movement and then shooting in high speed and getting some slow motion. Those are the big things, because most cameras these days, if you can get 4K, you can get away with a lot as long as you have decent sound. And I would, if you're doing something that's time sensitive, back up your sound too. That's another one that, because nothing's worse than shooting an hour and a half of video and then it's like, and just the file got corrupted.
Yeah, with you on that. I had that happen once. I don't do a lot of client work filming for people, but I did one for one person. And something happened where we had like a recording, a Zoom recorder thing, and it wasn't recording.
Yeah.
That was not a good experience.
Checklist. Checklist will be your best and biggest friend when it comes to film production, planning and checklists.
So with that story I just shared, I would like to get a story from you. So tell us like one really big success you've had with your business. I kind of want to get a feel for like what it is like that you do. What's a good success story that would really kind of define what it is that you do, or a personal favorite, I guess.
I mean, it's funny. I've helped attorneys grow, and some people grow to 7-figure businesses, but it's the look on their, like, the amount of money being made is awesome, right? You make money, but when you can transform someone's life with the business, that to me is always most successful. Like when I see we have customer story videos and they got that customer because of what we did, and they transformed this person's life, and this person's crying on the other side of it. It's like, my friend Tanner, who owns Build, Grow, Scale, and we're just doing his customer story videos because he helps people with e-commerce, and he genuinely helps people. And his business has grown significantly. He's been through some hardship and turned it around. He's an awesome guy, genuinely helps his people like you do, like does genuine work that's not, BS. Stats and figures. But when I get to interview the people, and 5 out of 8 people are crying because they're so happy with how their life has changed, that to me is the best thing. Like I still get goosebumps thinking about it, because it's like when you see that, because honestly, if you learn how to make money, making money is easy. It's really helping and transforming lives, and having the longevity and the ability to really transform lives is the tough thing. And that's what video allows people to enjoy their business more. Because when someone walks through the door and you're already an expert to them, man, that's going to transform your business too. So, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, I think that's, for me, is our biggest successes. I mean, I don't know, we've made money, and, we make money in a 7-figure agency, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's going to use those terms, but I think to me, that's the real success. I
think you hit the nail on the head with that. Honestly, when I had hired my business coach and went full-time with Get Handles Basketball about 6, 7, whatever years ago it was, you wake up in the morning feeling different. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When you have your first day, okay, I'm full-time with my own job. And it was at that moment, I'm like, wow, I knew like what I'm doing now with Inspire. Like, okay, I want to help other people do this. And I was trying to like just tell anyone I could for free. But you do quickly find out it's the people that are actually paying are the ones that are really more serious typically.
Yeah. Very, very true. Yes. People have to pay you. You have to make money. That's the other flip side of it. People, don't be afraid of selling something if you're genuinely helping someone. Get them to give you money, because they're gonna have skin in the game.
Right. They're more likely to follow up. Okay. Well, that being said, where can we find out more about you? Is there anywhere you want people to know about you? And I'll link it in the description, whatever you mentioned here too, for people. And the comments.
So storycruise.com is, where you can get all the information on how we do, for service-based businesses, video marketing, video production, etc. So that, our agency is Authentic Web, and on Story Cruise, you'll find that. And you'll also find a link to the Garlic Marketing Show. I have some of the best marketers in the world. I just interviewed you. And I'm excited about that. That was an awesome interview. But, guys like Gary Vaynerchuk have been on, and Michael Port and Ryan Dice. And, I'm really happy with the show, because I get people to tell me, really what's working for their business and what's working now. And I think that's a great way for people to keep the pulse on. But yeah, just go to storycruise.com. That's like cruise, like, film crew, not like a boat cruise. And you can find it, or you can Google my name, and one of 2 iron garlics in the world.
There was another one. Yeah, definitely check out the podcast, guys. I've been listening to a couple of his episodes, and it's impressive, some of the heavy hitters you've got on there, some of the big names. So it's good stuff, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I love it. It's great to talk with people like yourself. And, these are some of my favorite interviews, because when you've got people that are really in the trenches, you get the real stuff. There's guys that are leading companies, and so they're just filtering the information through. Not to say I don't love them, and they're not great people like Gary, but, when you get people like yourself that are giving real tactics that are working right now, that's the most exciting part.
Exciting for me too, to be able to get some of these tactics from you today and everyone watching. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and your time with us.
My pleasure. Loved it.